Now we are going to combine the two markets. Output market with the IS line and money market with the LM line. This is an analysis that came out from Keynesian tradition, but after Keynes. So these are the economists who improved this Hicks and Hansen. So that's why it is also called Hicks-Hansen model. So IS stands for investment and savings, and LM liquidity preference and money supply. So I hope we remember, everybody, about these two lines mean. IS line, any point on the IS line gives us combinations of interest rate and income level, which brings output market to equilibrium. In the same way, any point on the LM line again gives us combinations of interest rate and output level, which brings money market into equilibrium. So you have an intersection point, point 8, which gives you simultaneous equilibrium in both markets. All the other points available on this panel, this graph, they are not equilibrium points for both markets. So that means there is only one point among millions of points which gives us simultaneous equilibrium in both markets. Therefore, how do we say that? Because at point A, output equal demand, total demand, aggregate demand, or in other words, total income equals total expenditure, as well as money demand equals money supply. For example, we take a point like point B. What is the status of the economy at point B? We know that interest rate is R1, output level is Y1, and point B is on the IS line. That means the output market is in equilibrium. But point B is not on the LM line, which means money market is not in equilibrium. What kind of disequilibrium there are in the money market? Well, if you go back to our original money market analysis, you will understand that point B represents excess demand in the money market. Why excess demand? Because this is on the right side of the LM line, giving us lower interest rate and higher income level. Lower interest rate, higher income level. Lower interest rate relatively, okay? Lower interest rate means demand for money is greater if you look at the money market equilibrium, because the bond market offers you lower returns so that the public hold money in liquid form. More money in the hands of the public. excess demand in the money market. Now, why these points are important for us to look at? For example, point A, which gives us equilibrium in both markets. Because when you have a point B like one outside point A, it's not a stable point. Stability is there only at point A. Point B is not stable because it's a disequilibrium point. If it is disequilibrium, it moves towards point A so that you can understand which variables move, which markets get affected, and which variables in which direction they move. So this is a little complicated work if you are going to look at it. But anyway, here it is okay because interest rate moves upward as a result of higher money demand. But when the interest rate goes up, it has a negative impact on aggregate demand. Negative impact on aggregate demand because investment is likely to go down, so that output should decline. So that's why when the interest rate goes up, output should go down, aggregate demand should go down. So that's why ultimately this point like this, it moves in this direction. However, there are more complicated disequilibrium, like, for example, point C. What is the status of point C? And it is both markets are not in equilibrium. So this movement is difficult to understand by looking at this graph because both markets are not in equilibrium. There is excess supply in the output market. There is excess supply in the money market too. Whenever there is excess supply in the output market, so the output should decline in Keynesian view. That means there is a tendency to push output in this direction. But at the same time, when there is excess money supply in this money market, when there is excess money supply, and that excess money will flow into the bond market, so that interest rate likely to go down. So which means now this interest rate is under pressure in this direction. So when it is under pressure in this direction, output again turns back. So this kind of complicated movements are there. Anyway, that is because when the markets are in imbalance situation, they move in particular direction. That's all we need to understand from this point. And later on, in another few minutes time, we will take some cases and then study how the market moves. Now, in this graph, what we try to do is actually, after we bring both IS and LM lines together, we are going to build connection between the two markets. What are the two markets? Output market or goods market on the one hand, and the money market or the asset market on the other hand. So you can see output or income, that is here. Output market equilibrium is given as Y equal AD, and AD is C plus I plus G, and C plus I plus G. This one determine our output. Output market or income influence money demand, because money demand depends on output also, and through which it influence money market also, because this is money market equilibrium. So the connection, not only that, but also there are other connections. Let's see them as well. Money market gives us interest rate, and that interest rate also affect our output market. So we are connecting these two markets, output and interest rate, the relationship between, or the combination between these two variables, looking at the equilibrium position in both markets using IS and LM schedules. And then we have the policy factors. Policies affect output market and policies affect money market. And the two are also connected, because these two main macroeconomic policies, they are also connected. And then we have something else called shocks. Shocks also affect our both markets. How money market variables and output market variables interact, how they are connected to each other, how the two markets are connected. When something happens in the money market, here, it has influence over interest rate, through which it will affect goods market or the output market also, and then the total income of the economy. If something happens in the output market, maybe due to a shock or maybe due to a policy, one of the two, it also affects all the other variables in this system. Remember, we don't have foreign market here, foreign exchange market. So we need to bring that through later, at a later stage, okay, foreign exchange market. So this shows you the connection between the two sides. Macroeconomic connection. So we are in the macroeconomic model world. After we learn about these IS and LM, let's look at how the markets move by taking fiscal expansion. You can see it here. Fiscal expansion causes a shift in IS line. What would be the ultimate outcome in the macroeconomy. So I hope you all remember this graph: aggregate demand on the vertical axis, output on the horizontal axis, and this is aggregate demand function, which gives us here the position, the vertical intercept, and then the gradient is not mentioned here, but gradient should be here. And then AD0, that is our aggregate demand function. Line of equality is here with the slope 1. And you can see 1 here. And aggregate demand function, the two intersects at this point. So that we have Y0 output level. We studied this one earlier, the first thing that we studied. And then I have placed this graph in a particular way because we are going to connect them. If you are drawing with me, wait for a while, or draw it in this way. So we have output market here. Now we have money market here. The money market is the money supply, the real money stock, and the money demand, and the interaction between the two will determine interest rate. And the real money stock is given by this ratio, nominal money stock M0 over price level P0. Equilibrium interest rate is determined here. If the interest rate moves upward, more money will flow into the market, bond market, so that there will be less and less money demand in the money market. If the interest rate goes down, money demand will go up because of speculation. So now after we place these two markets, output market and money market, in the two places, then we can draw the ISLM framework connecting both like this. You can see interest rate is here corresponding to this interest rate axis in the money market, and the output is here corresponding to the output in the output market. So equilibrium point means we can extend Y0 output level all the way down, and we can extend interest rate also, so that the combination between output level and interest rate level, they are given here. So, in both markets, point A here shows that it is equilibrium point in the output market. And this A here shows that it is equilibrium in the money market. So that when we draw these lines, this line all the way down here to this point, and this point, interest rate to this point. So this meeting point of the two lines gives us what? Equilibrium simultaneously, equilibrium in both parts. So which means our IS and LM line should go through point A here. So that is the intersection point. Intersection point. Okay, listen and look carefully now. Don't miss what we do here. What are we talking about now? Fiscal expansion. Fiscal expansion. What does it mean? It means the government wants to increase spending. Government wants to increase spending. Now the government is spending 2,000 billion rupees and the government wants to increase it for 2,200 billion because government has employed new set of people or government has undertaken some projects or government has increased salaries and wages to public sector employees. Whichever the way that the government, there is a fiscal expansion resulting in an increase in government spending G. So if G goes up, what will happen here? It affects this market, not the money market, affects this market directly so that the intercept rises by delta A. Why intercept rises? Because our government spending variable is here, point A0 point. Because all the autonomous components of aggregate demand are abbreviated here to A0. So that when the government increase spending by delta G like this, it will increase vertical intercept of the aggregate demand function, which we interpret as an increase in the intercept, shifting the line up, aggregate demand. So now you can see earlier aggregate demand was AD0, now it is AD1. And what happens next? Next is you need to have a new equilibrium point. Now, where is the new equilibrium point? Earlier it was here. Now it is here. So how this movement takes place to this point, we have discussed this already. So that we mark that point like this. Output has increased to Y2 level. We extend that line all the way down. Let me extend it first, like this. So we can mark our Y2 point here. So if we extend this line here up to this point, they will understand now how the IS line, that is this one, shift to the right. It has to be like this. Why did the IS line move like that? Like this? because of the intercept again, because G, this variable G is here again in the intercept. So government increase spending and we can shift the IS line. What will happen here now? What happens here is now our equilibrium point is here. So interest rate is likely to go up to this level. And the output level will be here and not here. Okay, let's do those things here because they are already available. You can see the line. Okay, right. We started with point A, and this is where the new output level comes. But our actually last very final output level is here. So which means now the output has increased to this level. That's what you saw here. You see. But according to this graph, it has come down and you are now here. The net increase is only to Y1, not Y2. But here it is Y2, but here it is Y1. What is the reason for that? That is due to the connection between output market and money market, and between the two markets. Now, when we look at this analysis, the very basic analysis, output increase from Y0 to Y2. And we have analyzed this at the beginning. And also we have looked at the process of increase in equilibrium output. But now after we suddenly introduce IS line, the output is not Y2, it is actually Y1. So our equilibrium point is here, not here. It is because when we incorporate the connection between the two markets, this one brings money market impact on the output market. But this one does not have it there. How do we know? Because we haven't incorporated interest rate as a variable there. It remains as a variable only in the ISLM frame, which comes from the money market. Therefore, if the interest rate does not change, our output level will increase from Y0 to Y2. What did I say? If there is no interest rate impact in the money market. Impact of what? Increase in government spending. If the interest rate doesn't change, output will be here. So that means our R naught remains the same. So that we have nothing to move. We are still the same point like this. But we have seen as a result of the same policy of fiscal expansion, the interest rate goes up. Why it goes up? Because of this. Money demand goes up. Because the increase in output level or income level is an independent variable which determines money demand in the economy. So that the money demand goes up, and we have given it here with this line, increase in money demand. So you can see why not output level, it increased. As a result, we move to point C, that interest rate. Therefore, because of the increase in interest rate from R0 to R1, we have to move from point B to BC. When the interest rate goes up, it has a negative impact on the aggregate demand, so that this portion of the output increase declines. In net terms, the increase in output is only this amount. Because we have looked at the money market implications of fiscal expansion. Money market implications of fiscal expansion. Net increase in output level, only this amount. Now we have lost Y1 to Y2, this portion. It has a very special macroeconomic name. What is that name? Crowding out effect. Crowding out effect. What is crowding out effect? Crowding out effect is when the government increases spending, it has a negative impact on private spending, so that the output will decline too. Government increase spending, there is positive impact on output. For the same policy, there is negative impact on output, so that the final outcome depends on the size of it. Crowding out effect. Crowding out effect. I'm sure at least some of you must have heard that term, crowding out. How much is the crowding out effect according to this line? This is the amount. Now I'm going to ask a question. Crowding out effect, is it a fixed amount that we will have always some degree of trade-off with the increase in government spending? Or in other words, is the crowding out effect is fixed at a given amount? No, it depends. So sometimes, so in some economies, crowding out effect may be small. In some economies, it may be greater. At certain points, it may be smaller, and at certain points, it may be higher. What determines then the size of crowding out? The size of crowding out, this one. What determines that size? The size of crowding out effect. That means this amount. Crowding out effect. The size of depends on the slopes of these two lines, IS and LM. The slope. For example, we will change the slope. I'm going to use different colors for that. Let me select blue. So we get the same original point A, and we have this kind of LM line. Where is the intersection point? It is now not at point C, but it is here. Which means now crowding out has become bigger. You see, from this point to this point. Suppose that we have a flatter IS line like this, and our intersection point is here. And the crowding out effect becomes small, only this amount. And the net increase is bigger, net increase in output. So depending on the LM slope, crowding out, the size of crowding out becomes smaller or bigger. Okay, now we understand that it's a technical point, but what are the economics behind that? Because you can't say LM has to be flatter, then crowding out will be smaller. You can't say that. But what determines the flat LM line? Flat LM line. So that you need to look at the slope of the LM line. In fact, if you look at it from the LM equation, you will understand it better. So if you have the notebook, you can turn to your notebook and you will find that the the slope of this line, that means this amount, this slope, is given as simple A over simple B. Simple A over simple B. So simple A tells us the sensitivity of money demand to changes in income level. Sensitivity of money demand to changes in income level. Simple B tells that sensitivity of money demand to interest rate change. Depending on their sensitivity, the slope will change. For example, if you increase the value of B, that means money demand becomes more sensitive to interest rate change. Value of B will rise. When the value of B rises, the value of the ratio A over B will be smaller. That means this line becomes flatter. Will be like this. In fact, if it comes to be flat like that until it comes to here, this point, there is no crowding out effect, zero crowding out effect. And the net improvement in economic growth is bigger. If you have a case like this, vertical LM line, that means the slope becomes infinite. Then the entire change will be cancelled out, crowded out by rising interest rate. And the rising interest rate is here. So we discuss here the slope of the LM, and also now we know the economics behind the slope of the LM. But however, the slope of the IS also determines the crowding out effect. Slope of the IS also affects the size of crowding out effect. Let me explain that part. For example, I will use again blue color. Suppose that because now we are using this IS line, and if you are changing its slope, you have to start changing the original one slope also. So suppose that original one is like this. So what will be the new one? New one will be like this. Sorry, I have to start somewhere here. Okay, so don't get confused. Look at only the blue lines. So where is point B now? New point B. New point B is here. That is where you meet the Y2 output level. Oh, sorry, I made a mistake here. Let me erase that. This is the increase in output level. And I have to shift the line, IS line, to meet point B. That means I will be shifting it to this point. Because I have to maintain the same interest rate, this one. So at the same interest rate level, output should rise. Output should rise from point A, that is here, to Y2, that is here. But where is my intersection point? It is here. That means my crowding out effect will be now smaller. Smaller is like this. And the net increase in output level will be bigger. Which means now you can see the greater the slope of the IS line, the smaller will be the crowding out effect. You can note it down, the higher the slope of the IS line, the smaller will be crowding out effect. Inverse is also true. The smaller the slope of the IS line, smaller the slope of the IS line, the higher will be the crowding out effect. Right, now we are talking about the technical point, which is related to the slope of the IS line affecting the size of crowding out effect. But economics behind it is determined by what determines the slope of the IS line. So if you again go back to IS equation and look at the gradient there or the slope, and if you understand the slope, for example, the simple slope would be 1 minus simple c over I. This is the slope of the IS line. Simple C means MPC. So the MPC value is important determinant of the slope. So I give you that as a question and exercise. So you can do it. If the MPC goes up, what will be the slope of the IS line? And then what would be the crowding out effect? The other variable according to this specification is simple I. And where does simple I come from? It comes from the investment function. The sensitivity of the level of investment to changes in interest. Sensitivity of responsiveness of investment level to changes in interest rate. And again, I will give it to you as an exercise. See if the investors become more responsive to interest rate change. How does it determine the shape of the IS line and thereby the crowding out effect? I think now we carried out a comprehensive, detailed study about what factors determine crowding out effect of an economy. It is not uniform and fixed everywhere because it depends on many other economic factors. Anyway, the point that we need to remember, when the government increase spending, there may be crowding out depending on other variables. Let's also look at, before we wind up, shifting LM line, LM curve. LM curve will shift due to the changes in money stock, money supply, and we are looking at monetary expansion. Like the monetary expansion, which is happening nowadays, resulting in lower policy rates and increase in the stock of money in the economy. So how does it affect through our ISLM framework? How do we understand macroeconomic implications? So let's draw our money market equilibrium at point A, and the ISLM framework right there on the right side, extend that interest rate and the corresponding equilibrium point is point A. So I have skipped one graph here. Otherwise, this point is also determined by the other graph, which should be there. Okay, like in the earlier case. Like this. So anyway, our output level is Y naught now. We are going to introduce a monetary expansion, which means increase in money stock. How do we introduce it here? By shifting the money supply line to the right, the red line. What has happened now? Interest rate has declined. Now, if I ask you the question, why the interest rate declined from R0 to R1, I think you should be able to give me an answer. Because there is excess money in the economy, yes, we call it in general conversation, excess liquidity in the market. If there is excess liquidity, there will be greater demand for bonds. And the prices will go up, the interest rate will go down. So that's why interest rate went down from R0 to R1. As we move from A to B. So we extend that line here and show increase in the money stock by shifting this line down. Why we shift it to downward? Because it affects the intercept. like this. If you look at the LM equation, the intercept part, and then you will understand M over P, that means real money stock, is the major variable that determine the position of this line, position of this. So the new equilibrium is at point P. So we move in this graph from point A to point B, which means we have improved the income level or accelerated economic. The reason, reduction in interest rate, which will make the credit cheaper, investment cheaper, so that more investments in the economy will improve the economic growth. Simple, is not that much complicated like in the earlier case. Okay, now I think we can stop here. You have any questions? Any questions?